there and welcome back to our channel. On this channel, we talk about mental health with a special focus on how it affects us as a DID system. And we had a recent setback lately that made me think about hope and how hard it is to have hope when you have had a lifetime of trauma. So a little bit about the situation. We are currently looking for a job and it has been a really discouraging process, and we got a job offer and we thought everything was like signed, sealed, delivered. Like we thought it was in the bag, we were going to start in 2 weeks and it was all done. Well, then something happened that makes it so that we can't get one of the licenses that's required for the job, so we weren't able to take that job. And so now we're back to looking for a job, and it just is really discouraging, especially because the job search has been so difficult. And originally when we interviewed for this job, we did not think that we had done a good job. And we were afraid to be optimistic for it. So then when we got the job offer, it was like, oh, wow, this is like really happening. And then to have that kind of like pulled out from under us, it takes us back, and it's kind of like, see, this is why we're not optimistic. This is why we don't hope for things. When you hope for things, it leads to disappointment. And I know that that mindset comes from a long history of trauma. Part of our trauma that we deal with is that, like, consistently, it's not like it was bad all of the time. Sometimes good things happened, but the good things never lasted. Like, we could have a good day, and then like the next 4 days we would be dealing with the bad things that we were dealing with. And so it became like we were afraid to be positive, because it was kind of like, oh, this good thing is going to happen, but something's going to happen that is going to make it so we're not able to do the good thing, or something's going to happen to diminish the good thing. And so it's just because there was so much negativity in our life, it became really hard to look at anything optimistically. And I was reading a little bit about it, and some of the research I've done in the past is that's very common with CPTSD, actually, which is complex PTSD, which we are diagnosed with. And a lot of DID systems are also diagnosed with complex PTSD. And one of the things that comes with CPTSD is this sense of hopelessness. It's this fear of hope, because being pessimistic has become a way to protect ourselves. If we don't hope for the best, then we can't be disappointed when the best doesn't happen. And we have a friend who's like really positive, and is always looking on the bright side of things. And so like when something happens, we'll like talk to her and we'll be so like, it's just not going to happen. We can't expect anything good to come of it. And we're always like worst case scenario. And she's always trying to be like, no, I have a good feeling about this. And we're like, we can't have a good feeling. Having a good feeling is dangerous because it sets you up for disappointment. And the other thing is, if you are prepared for the worst to happen, the likeliness is the worst isn't going to happen. Like the worst thing that we could possibly think of, probably not going to happen. But if we prepare for the worst thing we could possibly think of, then that means that we'll be prepared for anything that's less than that. And it's a really difficult way to live your life, because it means we live with a lot of anxiety. Because, you know, when we're constantly thinking about what the worst thing that could happen is, then we're like, okay, trying to prepare for every bad thing that could happen, and it just makes us so anxious because we're just thinking negative all the time. And this like shows up in so many places in our life, like not just the job search, but that's like a big thing. And it's why the job search has made me so depressed, is because it's hard to think good things are going to happen from it. But this also comes with relationships, right? Or like new friendships. So like it could be like, oh, they're not going to like me for whatever reason, which I know a lot of people have that kind of anxiety, but it's more of a defensive strategy for us, where we're like, oh, we will prepare for people not liking us, and then that way we won't be caught off guard when they actually don't like us, and it won't hurt as much, which isn't true. I mean, it still hurts if somebody decides that they don't like me. Like, I'm still upset by it, even if I anticipated it. And what it also does is it feeds into my people pleasing, because I have a fear of abandonment. I get really triggered by rejection. And so in my relationships, even when meeting new people, I am constantly trying to do like guess what the other person wants from me so that I can give them that. And so therefore they are more likely to stay. So that's like my interactions with people is always like, okay, what can I do to make sure this person doesn't leave me? What can I do to make sure this person likes me? Because if this person likes me, then they won't leave me. And it becomes this like battle, because on the one hand, I'm anticipating them not liking me so that I can tell myself it won't hurt so much if they don't. But at the same time, I have this intense need to be liked. And so I'm putting my best out there. I am constantly trying to like give them what I think they want, all the while in the back of my head going, this isn't going to be good enough. Like, so I'm putting in my best effort, all the while I've got like these voices in my head going like, you can put all of this effort in, it doesn't matter. It's never going to matter. They're not going to like you. And it leads to very unbalanced relationships. So I can feel like a lot of times that I put more into my friendships than I get out of them, because I'm trying so hard to make sure the other person is happy. So I will try to be like everything for them, be their support, listen to their needs, be fun, be like just whatever they need out of a friendship. I try to be that, but then I try not to put my own needs on them. I try not to burden them, because in my brain, if I'm a burden, they're not going to want to be around me and they're going to abandon me. And so it becomes this mess, because my fear of abandonment does come from trauma. My fear of being optimistic also comes from trauma. So this trauma is creating this dynamic that just, it doesn't fit well together. And it makes it even more difficult having DID, because different parts are playing into these different areas. So for example, I might try my hardest to be liked, whereas Ricky is going to try his hardest to push everyone away. He doesn't want us having relationships. He doesn't want us having friends. He wants us to be alone, secluded from society, because for him, that is the only way that we're going to stay safe. On the other hand, you have Natasha, who is really positive, to the point that I thought when Natasha was fronting, I was having manic episodes, and it was actually just Natasha fronting, because she's so much more positive than a lot of us. It can go from being very like, you know, oh, I'm really invested in this new friendship and I think it's going to go really well. So you have Natasha on one hand doing that. You have Veronica, who's like super social and outgoing and wants to make friends and wants to hang out and is such an extrovert and is like, oh, we're going to, you know, be friends with this person and it's going to be great. We're going to have more people in our lives. You have Ricky going, we need to not have anybody in our lives. We have Cameron going, okay, let's proceed with caution. We need to make sure we're protecting ourselves. We don't know what this person's intentions is. So he comes from a very like, okay, yes, it's good to meet new people, but we need to be very careful when we do. And then you have me in the middle who's like, I want friends, but I feel like I don't want to put any hope into the situation. And I know it's not good to have expectations when building relationships with people anyway, but it goes so much further than that. It's like, I actually just don't want to hope things go well, because when they fall apart, then it'll be easier for me to deal with. And I think that goes into play with my fear of abandonment too. I am so afraid of abandonment that I expect people to leave, because I have told myself that if I expect them to leave, it won't hurt as much when they do. And so I spend the entire relationship trying to prevent this abandonment that I have convinced myself is going to happen no matter what. And so when I put all of that like out there, I can realize just like why it's so hard for me to build meaningful relationships and why a lot of my relationships can feel one-sided. And it's just, it's so hard to want to be optimistic. Like I know that like positive people are like nicer to be around, and I try to be that positive person, but I don't believe it. I can't allow myself to believe it, because in the past, bad things happen. And if I can prepare myself for that bad thing to happen, I won't be taken off guard, and I can protect myself a little better. And so now I am almost 40 years old, afraid to hope. And, you know, and I talked to my therapist about this. I was like, I am afraid to be hopeful, because hope means you have to be vulnerable. Hope means you have to trust something outside of yourself. And my life has told me that that is a dangerous thing to do. It's dangerous to be vulnerable. It's dangerous to be trusting. And I don't know where to go from that. I try to do the more positive mindset. I've tried to do the manifestation stuff, and it doesn't work for me, because I don't believe it, because it's dangerous to believe that. And I know this has been kind of just like just me talking and getting my thoughts out there, but I feel like I really needed to just talk through this, and I thought other people might find it interesting. I don't have a solution. I don't know what the solution for fearing hope is, because like the only advice I've gotten is like, oh, just think more positive. But I can't, because if I try to think more positive, my trauma screams, that's dangerous. So, you know, if I come across a way that I can find to be, to allow myself to be more hopeful, then I will come back and I will do another video and share my views on that. But just for now, if you have lived with trauma, if you have CPTSD, and you find it really hard to be hopeful, and I'm not just talking about hopelessness, which is another aspect of CPTSD. Like it's not just this thought that like nothing is going to work out. It's being afraid of thinking that anything is going to work out. And so if you're struggling with that, just know that you're not alone. And the fact of the matter is, things are going to happen outside of our control. Like my ability to hope for something isn't really going to change the outcome, but it changes my own emotional health. And so me being hopeful is not going to make anything more or less likely, but me not being not helpful, same thing, is not going to make something more or less likely. But it does mean that I am more under emotional turmoil, because I am dealing with the negativity and the anxiety that comes from not wanting to hope for the best. And if you go through that, just know you're not alone. If you have thoughts about this, please leave them below in the comments. If you have struggled with this and you have found ways to, you know, change your thinking, then please feel free to leave those down below. And also, if there are other topics you would like us to cover, let us know. We do have some plans for filming. We're scripting out a couple of things right now. This was just something that I was like, it was on my mind, and I thought I would just sit down and talk about it. But if there's things you would like to hear our perspective on, just let us know. And until next time, take care and stay well. Bye.